Hi everyone, can you hear me? Good, just testing if the microphone works. Are my slides gonna come up? They're not coming up. Oh, there you go. Hi everyone. So first of all, if you see me drinking, I had a very salty lunch, so apologies for that. But it's a pleasure to be here and to talk about the topic of VC. I am still not used to the word VC labeling myself, to be honest, because we just launched our fund, but it's really exciting, that's for sure. So I'm going to take you through a series of concepts that hopefully will deliver on the promise, which is basically giving you an overview of how to leverage the next bull run. And those that know me know that I have been in the B2B space for a long time, and I'm an advocate of B2B, and I'm going to try and convince you that a big part of adoption in our space is actually led by B2B. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce all these separate concepts. I don't think we'll have time for questions after, but happy to pick it up at the end with you in one-to-one. So how do we actually come along? What you see here is a picture of myself and my business partner. She's just in the front. And I have basically been working in go-to-market for the last 10 years. And worked and built some of the, or helped build some of the accelerator programs out there, including but not limited to Microsoft for Startups in the Middle East, IIDF, which is the largest accelerator in Russia, for those that don't know, and before it was uncool to say Russia, and Techstars Web3, where I was recently CCO in residence, so I basically helped build the commercial programming for it. And that's how we became AgileGTM, which is the world's first enterprise Web3 accelerator fund, investing in B2B solutions that enable Web2 audiences to join the Web3 space. And we're based in Lisbon because it is one of the biggest hubs in Europe. So let's start with the first concept. B2B is the next phase of adoption. So last year, I'm going to take you through the numbers quickly. Last year, about 300, well, some of the reports say 315. I actually think it's much more. Around 315 companies out of the Fortune 500 companies that are listed publicly have joined the Web3 space. But they mostly joined to create the next level of customer engagement and brand loyalty for future generations of buyers, of course. There's a 2,572% market increase predicted in the blockchain space. We all know that, according to Gartner. Also a big corporate. But what's most important, and I think that that's where the untapped audiences are, as we all know, a third of the world is in immersive experiences, right? So we have, it's not only 3 billion people, it's 3 billion people that are aged 35, which is a massive purchasing power. It's the age when we all start accumulating wealth and spend it. And it's actually 49 to 51, female to male ratio, which essentially means it's extremely inclusive. So this is an untapped audience for B2B2C, of course, audiences and onboarding those audiences into the space. Another stat that is not written here is that 70% of companies that launch in the Web3 space end up being B2B within their first 6 months. And that is because customer acquisition and commercialization in B2B is much easier to achieve in the short term. So yeah, here's why, in essence, B2B is the next phase of adoption. From our work and also from the companies that are looking for backend at the moment, and from the 315 companies that we spoke about before, there's 8 leading industry verticals, which are the enterprise verticals that are essentially leading our space. And it's a cycle, essentially. It's the enterprises joining the Web3 space, and it's the companies that are building solutions that allow these companies to onboard their audiences. And these are in retail, which includes, this was supposed to be another slide, apologies, but never mind. Retail, luxury and fashion, music and entertainment, sports, food and beverage, automotive, and financial services. These are basically the main industry verticals out there today. Let's quickly define then what enterprise Web3 is. So we have, it's a decentralized, I think that this these 4 blocks describe how enterprises have essentially acted or have operated or have launched in the Web3 space. But most importantly, it kind of shows why enterprises are going from the back end from the front end to the back end. So last year, enterprises were essentially using Web3 for customer-facing activities to enhance their customer-facing journeys, as I said before. And what is happening and what we see happen now is that basically they're going to be leveraging the back end to be able to, to engage those customers. And that means, essentially applying Web3 to business operations and things that are beyond, revenue and growth. And so there's 4 layers at which they operate, 4 blocks. They operate in decentralization, or the decentralized layer, in the ownable layer, and in the immersive layer. I have included the searchable layer, which is artificial intelligence, but for all intents and purposes, since it is not a must for it to be blockchain enabled, I've basically excluded it for the sake of the presentation. So let's look at investment in Web3, actually. And when I say investment, I mean VC investment in Web3. Can anybody tell me, so we see from the graph that VC deals in Web3 have decreased last year. Can anybody tell me about how much? Does anybody know? Anyone? No? It's a publicly released step? 80, that's correct. 82%, you were close. So yeah, that's what's happening right now, right? So for all of those that are looking for backing, pitching a VC about your Web3 project is extremely challenging. Now, why is this happening? For a series of reasons. First of all, we haven't achieved product market fit. Many may disagree with me. Actually, Richard, the gentleman that I was in a fireside chat with earlier this morning, said we have achieved product market fit only in the Web3, so for Web3 audiences, right? So perhaps the way to rephrase is we haven't achieved audience message fit beyond Web3, right? The Web2 world doesn't care about blockchain, essentially. And so that's why when we look at this, consequentially, most Web3 ventures are early stage, if not all, and there's very few scalable deals because the concept of product market fit cannot be reproduced and scaled. As a consequence, from an investment standpoint, seed checks are signed at pre-seed stage. What that means is that instead of, a pre-seed stage is usually defined by a check size of up to $500,000. We see deals that are pre-revenue with a valuation of 18 million, asking for 5 million, and to me that's a joke. It's not. Nothing has been proven there. So in very extremely rare cases, there's a really, really strong team that can actually deliver on an idea, and you potentially know that it can be figured out by them. But in reality, or the reality is that it basically presents a problem for the future. And last but not least, token raises are self-serving and unsustainable. I'd love to have a chat with all those that disagree, but I think that token raises, many projects have raised tokens in the last 2 years, essentially as a self-serving model to raise because they couldn't raise equity. And I think that there's a paradigm shift happening at the moment. And ventures are essentially looking to raise equity, and we're moving from unsustainable business models to sustainable business models. And so, how should we leverage the bull run? How can we prepare ahead of the bull run? Well, first of all, what we see from the graph is that every 5 years there's going to be, every 4 years, sorry, there's the cyclical halving event, and that kind of dictates how the market goes. And curiously enough, we see venture capital flows coming into, or I guess capital flows coming into the space just after, a couple of months after the bull run. So, if let's say that in a year's time, you'll be in a great place to raise because you'll be able to convince everyone. But the truth is, if you want to position yourself ahead of that, you should be acting right now, right? You should be building right now, you should be acting right now. And so, given that, I think it is worth mentioning, I'm out of time. How can we actually drive adoption? So the focus of investment should be, instead of mass adoption, everyone's talking about mass adoption, it should be, last year we went from mass to purposeful adoption. And now we're going into what is called sustainable adoption, which is basically powered by sustainable business models. And the focus of what the investment theses and what founders' work should be is UX UI, first of all, which we know is this is the adoption, we call it the adoption pyramid. So UX UI is the basis, it's the most important part, as we know. On top of that, we need to make our users feel safe. So ventures should make sure that users feel safe to use the technology, and above and on top of that is education. Even though most people think education is the most, I guess, it is the first part. It really isn't. It's the last part, right? Any good UX UI will always beat any good education of a product. And so now we are left with institutionalization and how institutions will change the landscape. I know I'm out of time. So I'm just going to briefly say this and leave this for food for thought. So what is happening with institutionalization? I'm sure that many of you see this in the news, and every 3 seconds you see BlackRock or JP Morgan or whatever basically in the news saying that they're looking into adopting Web3 in a wider sense, and big regulation is coming our way in Europe. In the UK, it's already been implemented. So you have the traveler rule on the 1st of September that forces UK cryptoasset companies to essentially be transparent about where the capital is coming from and their transactions. And the one that's coming in the 8th of October, which is literally next week, it's going to be about the marketing. So basically marketing of financial products that are in crypto space. And they need to be, according to, I've written this down, they need to be clear, fair, and not misleading. So that's going to be hard for many of the Web3 projects out there, I can tell you that. And so what we see is that this is going to push enterprise enablement, right? You see the Financial Conduct Authority putting, I guess, a delineation of what is allowed and what is not, and the MiCA regulation coming across Europe that is starting in June next year and will end up being implemented, or the last phase of implementation will be in December next year, that will level the playing field, across all of Europe in terms of adoption. So yeah, I hope I've left you with plenty of food for thought in terms of where investment should go in the next year, from a year to the next 4 years. And I would love for you to connect with me, and thank you everyone for listening, and happy to take questions after, and hope you have a good day.